I say your name.
Headquarter.
Okay, do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
There you go, sorry, slow it down. That I will bear true faith and allegiance
That I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California.
and the Constitution of the State of California.
That I will take this obligation freely
That I will take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
without mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
And that I will and faithfully discharge
That I will faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
That's it. Congratulations. That's a construction timeline history that Mr. Reitner had asked for. Several of us have taken a look at that. I appreciate, Mark, your input. What I'm asking for is your input, all of your input, if you'd like to see it, like added, etc. As soon as you get back information to me, that is a draft document. As soon as you get back information, then I can give it to the press, I can give it to the community, we'll post it on the website and make sure that everyone in the community has it. You can see right now it's obviously in draft form. I will put it in the Dropbox as well, but I just wanted to bring it to your attention that that's nearing completion. And we're getting close to try to dig up all of the old skeletons, if you will, in this project. But I think that's pretty comprehensive, but please let me know if I've missed something or you'd like something added. Secondly, I wanted to report that we are on target and we are actually, I shouldn't say this, but we are ahead of schedule. Something may happen in the next week or two. But as it relates to the project and submission of the project to DSA, if you remember right, we are looking with JTS Construction and putting all of those bid packages, the numerous bid packages that we've talked about, putting that on the street. That goes on the street. We've done the value engineering. We've completed that phase. We've submitted all the documents. We've received preliminary approval in a couple different areas from county, but obviously not DSA. There's a bid time associated with that. I did want to clarify that for everyone as per our conversations. So we're expecting obviously DSA approval, but in the meantime, we are not waiting. We are going to go out to bid. Because most of that bid package has nothing to do with DSA. It's civil and the site work. And so the other piece is from JTS, sorry, not JT, JTS. And so they'll work on that, and it's almost a non-issue as it relates to DSA. There's minor adjustments. And honestly, it's inches, if not centimeters, away from the exact footprint that was originally designed. So there should not be any issues with geo because of the borings and the detailed analysis we did prior. So when that package goes on the street, my intention is to try to get those bids back to you, and we'll take a look at them. Obviously, JTS has the package, and they will select their vendors. We will be involved as part of that group, but obviously, yes, as per the discussion, JTS will select those vendors with our agreement, meaning our lead team. They'll come back to you with a guaranteed maximum price. I'm hoping to do that. Earliest would be end of February, latest would be middle of March time frame. That will put together a complete contract, a package with a guaranteed maximum price. We'll know every detail within it. The guaranteed maximum price will also give you a complete summary of what you're getting for the money that we're spending. Okay? That should happen again, late February, middle of March. We're right there.
One question. I see that you've got our November 8th, 2008 Measure CF. And then prior to that, you have a little discussion about Measure V. But there was, I think, 2, 3, or 4 other measures before that. I'm just curious why V made this, but the others didn't.
And the fact of the matter is, I may have missed several things. There's quite a history there. That's what I'm asking for from you, is to help me recreate this. The records are not exactly intact. And so we're kind of scrambling around trying to find stuff, to be honest with you. Lucy and I just can't find everything that goes back beyond
the other
us.
measures.
Yeah. So, again.
I personally wouldn't have any information.
No, like you
maybe
may be
you
able
want.
to send me some direction, we can look it up on county records. We've done, you know, Jim and I and Lucy have done the best we possibly can. That's why I put it in draft there.
But
I hate to put it out to the public yet, because it's not complete.
But the future timeline is really what's important here
Exactly.
anyway.
But Mr. Reitner wanted a historical timeline, and I wanted to put that together as per the direction of the board. So that's where we're at with that.
Okay, and you mentioned the county, so has the county had a chance to review the revised civil?
They have, and they've made comments, and they've given us back those comments, and that's why I said it's preliminary, meaning that as long as we adhere to those comments, and they are nothing significant and major, there's one thing that's still outstanding, and the only potential thing that could be major, and that's because, again, I keep telling you this, but the guy retired, and there's a new engineer. So the new engineer and the old engineer are still negotiating what that is. And so they're going off the old data, and then apparently there's some new criteria, new standard always with civil work. But we don't anticipate a problem. So far, it's been very positive.
Dr. Woodard, I'm sorry.
No, I was going to move on, but if you have
Um,
a comment.
Do you remember a while back that I suggested that we put something like this online on our website so people could actually see?
So this will be as soon as I get it done. And
That'd be, I think, great for people to be able to
Yeah.
actually see.
It will, and we're creating a tab and everything now that we're getting into the construction phase, and we'll take pictures and, you know, keep it up. But I didn't want to put anything out until you guys had seen it, and then I just wanted to, you know, memorialize that. Okay, I'll put it in the Dropbox too, so you can take a look at it.
Any comments under 9.5?
No, sorry.
9.6, board member comments. Mike, anything? Matt? None? Larry?
Yeah, I think it's time that we should put on the agenda and start considering changing our school year to starting some time certain before our present start dates, the dates usually after the Antelope Valley Fair. I think we've had a study before, but it may or may not be still valid. I think we've had another survey of the public, and I think the majority was that we move it back, and that's what I think that we should start considering and get it on the calendar as soon as possible.
Well, I think it's premature to put it on the agenda, considering that it's a negotiation item right now.
I mean for discussion only.
Well,
And
again,
I'm not bringing up negotiations, I'm only talking about what's best for the students, that we start our school year too late compared to other districts that seem to have the wisdom to start a little sooner so that the students can be better prepared for testing and colleges.
Lucy, would you put it on as a future agenda item?
For discussion.
And I'm hesitant to set a date at this point, since there are other negotiation factors that have to be worked through before we have open discussion about it.
I'll just put it as a future agenda item.
So just put it down as a future agenda item. Consent agenda, 10.0. We're going to pull out 10.3 and review that separately. So our deliberation will be on 10.1 and 10.2. Do we have a move? A second? Second. In regard to 10.1 and 10.2, any discussion? Call the question? Aye. In regard to 10.3, Larry?
Yeah, I'm going to abstain from voting as a potential conflict of interest.
Okay, it's in regard to donated television set by Mr. Layton. Call the question? Aye.
Aye.
Donation is approved. 11.0, Education and Student Services. 11.1, Public Hearing. Albert Einstein Academy of Letters and Arts and Sciences at Agua Dulce Charter Petition. The board will conduct a public hearing to receive input regarding the academy at Agua Dulce and its charter petition. And we're going to open the hearing at 7:48. And Doctor?
Okay, so tonight we have, once again, we have Jeffery Shapiro. He is here as the director of the Einstein Academy, and he has a petition he'd like to submit to each of you, as well as we've talked about it. This is going to be a very abbreviated presentation, right, Mr. Shapiro? I mean, Dr. Shapiro, right? Very abbreviated.
No more than 30 hours.
So by that, I mean, we will open it up for you guys and then some Q&A and go through there. We know there's quite a bit of questions that the public may have. We want to make sure that, give an opportunity. We have the gentleman that's going to head up the program here. But again, I'd like to caution all of us is that this is the petition phase. We still have yet to get into the MOU phase, and I won't until, obviously, we go down this road. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Shapiro.
Great. Well, thank you very much. I'm going to try to, I think my voice will carry without using the mic so I can be closer to the computer. I want to start off by thanking the school district and thanking the Acton and Agua communities for being such wonderful partners and for your hospitality. Our school is thriving. The school that you approved on May 16th, I think you know, is doing very well. We have happy parents. We have happy students. We have happy teachers, and we think overall we're fulfilling our mission of everybody thriving. And so I want to start by thanking you for partnering with us. The second half of that is one of the things we discussed last year when we decided to work together and have you approve our elementary school and our secondary school, which will open in the 2014 school year, was that we would work with the district on what was originally being called a dependent charter, but what we're calling the Einstein Partnership Academies. And the first one that we are proposing, we have submitted a petition to you, is for an elementary school that will go into the campus that I understand is being closed, the Agua Dulce campus. We're certainly familiar with the campus as we're currently operating grades, kindergarten and first grade there currently. I'd like to start by just giving you a little bit of overview. I know that most of you saw this 9 months ago when I made the presentation. This is much abbreviated, but it's a review so that everybody understands what the Albert Einstein Academy is about and what we'd like to do. First of all, the Albert Einstein Academy is a mission-focused school. We have a number of pillars that really make up what we're about. The bottom line is that our goal is for each student to thrive. We started the school as a group of parents with our very first school in Santa Clarita 4 years ago because we recognized that children learn differently and that we needed to change the paradigm. Rather than have a situation where students need to fit the program, we wanted to create a program that was adaptable to fit the needs of individual students. We start with an interdisciplinary curriculum. We're, of course, aligned with California state standards, but what we do is we don't look at things in a vacuum. We have the relationship between the arts and the sciences, the mathematics, the social sciences, so on and so forth. We want to create lifelong learners because we understand that lifelong learners are the most successful citizens. We want to foster leadership, and we do this in a number of ways. We have regular town hall meetings where all students participate. We have dress code where all students learn self-discipline through uniforms. All students do community service. Even at the elementary level, it's 10 hours of community service a year. At the middle school level, it is 15, and at the high school level, it's 25 hours a year. All students beginning in kindergarten study world language. The languages we offer on the U.S. State Department's list of high-priority languages for the 21st century. We don't offer French, we don't offer Italian, and it has nothing to do with our dislike of the Europeans. It's simply that we want to offer the languages that are in demand for the 21st century. So what does that mean? That means primarily Middle Eastern languages, Asian languages, and foundational languages such as Spanish, Latin, and Greek. But we also don't teach those in a vacuum. we do world travel, voluntary world travel in the summer, where we take our students to the countries where we teach the where they speak the languages we teach. Important to note, the Einstein Academy is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. It's a grassroots organization. It was started by parents such as myself who recognized the need. We do this because we wanted to do this for our own families, and when other families came to us and asked us to replicate, we felt the obligation to. That's why we have increased our number of schools, which for the record, including, I'm going to be positive, including this partnership academy will total 8 schools in 3 states, California, Ohio, and Florida. Now, of course, the heart and soul of a school is always the faculty. And our teachers will all hold valid teaching credentials. They will be highly qualified as defined by the No Child Left Behind law, experienced and engaging, and they'll be lifelong learners, because we won't be able to instill lifelong learning in your children if our teachers are not lifelong learners ourselves. Now you see a picture of Miss Frizzle from the Magic School Bus. She may look familiar to you. Well, she's our model teacher. And the reason for that is she says, take chances, make mistakes. We want our students to take risks because we understand that is how students learn. Those of you who have heard me give the more extended version of this presentation before have heard me talk about 3M. And the biggest mistake they ever made is the most successful product they've ever had, and that's Post-it notes. It was a mistake. They were trying to find the super glue, and they failed. But now they come out with something that we all use. That's what we hope happens with our students. Talk about academic performance. This is something that goes away. I think many of you know that the William S. Hart Union High School District in Santa Clarita is one of the highest performing high school districts in the entire state of California. Well, in our very first year, when we only had junior high school grades, we were the highest performing junior high school in the entire district. And usually, as a school expands, academic performance decreases. Ours actually increased. We are WEST accredited, which is the highest form of accreditation, the Western Association of Schools and Colleges. All of our schools will go through that process as soon as they qualify. So the elementary school that is authorized by your district will begin that process next year at our earliest eligibility. Sorry. Parents are a huge part of our success and probably the key to our success. Outside of the teaching, they really do everything. Okay. And we couldn't have the success that we have without the involvement of parents. The sense of community that comes from that is really tremendous. I mentioned dress code before. As you can see, students wear a logoed polo shirt in one of 5 colors. It's 5 colors because there are 5 days of the week. We wouldn't want students to have to wear the same color twice in the week. And then there are certain restrictions on the bottoms. Now, why do we do this? Well, we do it, as we said, it's self-discipline. It builds a sense of community. It's a great neutralizer. You don't know by the way a student is dressed who comes from an affluent home and who comes from a working class home. The most important reason may be is safety, because a teacher, a parent, anybody on campus can immediately look out and know if somebody doesn't belong. And lastly, even Albert Einstein himself wishes he went to AEA. And the inside joke behind that is that Albert Einstein was not a good student. The person whose name is synonymous with genius failed math. That's why we name the schools the Albert Einstein Academies, because we know that students can thrive And out of that type of challenge and adversity can come genius. So with that, I will end the presentation and answer questions and see what we can do.
So let me start with a question, and then maybe you can answer them, okay?
I'll try.
This is all, we obviously understand there's some significant concerns, questions, angst, if you will, about how this is going to look. What is it going to be? And again, let me make the distinction between, you're talking about tonight, the petition. We haven't even got into the MOU, and the MOU is going to be the agreement between the district and Albert Einstein Partnership Academy of the operational procedures, expectation, et cetera, facility to, it's going to be extensive. Obviously, you guys will have an opportunity to vote on that. That's one I will bring forward for a vote, knowing the significance of that issue. So at some point, we'll need to talk about direction. Do you want to have a subcommittee? Do you want to have, what, blah, blah, blah. So you and I are going to need to have some conversation about what and how that process should look in your mind. We already have a template. We already have a current MOU with them. However, it needs to be expanded based on the facilities and some of the other things. So consequently, one of those things, and the great concern, I happened to meet with the Booster Club over at Agua Dulce, and we had several good meetings and conversations with parents and folks. And one of the concerns was, well, what assurance do we have that Agua Dulce kids will be afforded the opportunity to attend this school, knowing they're in that area currently and attend there now?
California charter law allows for weighted preference to be given if the authorizing district and the school so desire, so that residents of the school district can be given something on the order of weighted preference of 100 to 1. What that means is that it virtually guarantees that any student from the area who wants to go is going to get in. I do not see it as an issue whatsoever for Agua Dulce students, for Acton students to be able to attend the school. There just is no reason to think that that won't happen.
The question we're also talking about, again, before I move off of that, is there any clarification, comments, questions from the board on that issue? I know that's an issue you may have heard from different community members.
I assume that's part of the MOU.
That will be part of the MOU, yes, sir.
It is an issue that is a backbreaker. If we don't have 150 students that currently attend Agua Dulce in the academy, then it's a non-starter. So they have to be in. It's a concern of the parents. If they don't want to go to the academy, that's a different story. Okay. But if they choose to go, they need to go because this board believes very heavily on being able to attend school in your neighborhood. And anybody who goes to school 50 miles away does so at their own choice. Okay, so they need to be able to go to school in their own neighborhood. It's a significant issue with the community. So obviously we have to have a high level of comfort that when approving the MOU, that all of our kids will be in the academy.
We've already discussed the language. He's already agreed to the language. I just haven't got it in there yet.
We're fully prepared to commit to the fullest extent allowed by California law to guarantee and preference community students.
The question becomes now, I mean, obviously, what about Meadowlark?
Yeah, the challenge for us, I think, is for us as a district through the MOU process, obviously, to think about that weighting scale, right? Is Agua Dulce Elementary a replacement for Agua Dulce with the same boundary lines of Agua Dulce School vis-a-vis Meadowlark, or is Agua Dulce Elementary the charter that now exists in the school district, which all elementary kids have equal weighting into, and what happens otherwise? Now, it is our hope, and it's my belief, that we will find that our enrollment immediately goes from 150 or wherever it is now, back up to the 300, 350 that we used to, and we'll have the capacity to handle it. So hopefully that's a moot point. But that'll be our challenge, I think.
Well, and that's something at some point I'll need direction from you guys, is what you'll approve. Do you want to weight Agua Dulce different than Meadowlark? Do
Anything you want to talk about it tonight?
No, not necessarily, because I think we'll get way off the track.
Right.
I think that's a separate topic. But
Yeah.
that's a question I wanted to make sure you know he's well aware of.
Yep.
The main point for tonight is that, my understanding from talking to mental art parents, a lot of this is mildly interesting. And don't have the same issues that the
Right.
parents at Agua Dulce do. And let's make no mistake about it, this issue is being driven by the Agua Dulce parents, as it should be. It's their school, and they should get what they want. So what we want to do is make sure they get what they want.
But
and that
that's
they don't end up
exactly
in
it.
school. So.
Let me clarify, I think the celebration here for me is that we've created schools of options and choices for parents. They can choose now. There's no boundaries. Boundaries are gone. They can choose to go there, they can choose to go here. We've consolidated the campuses, they can choose to go to his school. And now guess what? Ms. Tredick knows we've set up a system of competition. There's going to be competition between the two. That's the intent. That's the greatest model we can possibly achieve. So he's fully aware of that. So to move off of that, the second piece that we needed to talk about is obviously he's fully aware of the facilities, and we'll go through that facilities. And he knows that's going to be part of the MOU. And we're talking about what that is, and the standards, and the community standards, and all of those things. And he's well aware there's community standards. He'll adhere to the community standards. He's not going to paint the school pink or anything crazy like that. We clearly will identify that in the MOU and go through that scenario. The other thing is, and I know that whether it be through teachers that have expressed a concern, what happens to the teachers. And again, please don't let me speak for you, but in essence, basically the comment is, and we've talked about, that obviously two different employers, two different schools, two different programs and institutions. So, however, any of those teachers that are currently there and end up in the seniority and whoever ends up here, and however that shakes out, whoever is left as far as that teacher pool will be given very strong consideration in his organization and can apply for that. And obviously he'll take those applications extremely serious, meaning that most of his, and again, elaborate when I'm done, is make sure that, again, you clarify for us exactly what that process is. It's a little bit different than our process. You have parents that are driven, it's very parent driven, so there's no guarantees those folks will get. If they don't fit the qualification, if you will, of in essence exactly what you're looking for, as far as they've got to want to be there kind of scenario. So if they, some of those things don't occur, obviously that will be an exception. However, you will give strong consideration to those teachers to have gainfully employed at that school. So if you will.
Let me reiterate, we're community schools. Our first school was started by parents who recognized the need for their own children. We only are adding other schools because of that same demand. So going back to the first thing that Dr. Wood had talked about, the culture, the community, the annual events, so on and so forth, those are not things we would have any desire to change. The idea is that the school is going to represent the community and the wants and needs and desires of the community. So from that perspective,
So Halloween parties are okay?
Halloween
Okay, I'm just checking because I know that was a concern.
And in fact, our students who are on the Agua Dulce campus now participated in that festival.
Yes.
Teachers. It's in our interest to have teachers who know the community, who know the students. So obviously, we want to give every effort for local teachers, teachers who know the students, who know the school, who know the culture, to have that first opportunity for jobs. And yes, the process is one where parents interview all the teachers before we hire them. Not every parent. We have parent committees. So it's a very community-oriented process. So that's how I would address that.
Any questions, concerns on that from the board? Okay, then lastly, if you would, again, you kind of said a little bit about it in terms of the culture, the climate. Every year, let me give you an example. They do a Tejon Ranch project, and they go up to Tejon and they do a really unique scenario where they stay overnight and things like that. You're open to those kinds of field trips and opportunities and keeping some of the traditions, if you will, in the organization.
First of all, we're very committed to project learning and experiential learning. Field trips are a significant part of our curriculum already. Would we have any desire or reason? I mean, if it was I can't imagine that a trip to Tone Ranch or anything else that the school district currently does or the school currently does is not something that we would want to continue. If the community wants to continue it and it has educational value, and clearly these things do, we would. And in particular with this event coming up, we're the Rockets, so we should, whoever brought up the event, we should send our kids there because Einstein Academy are the Rockets. But yeah, there's no reason why those traditions would vary. And similarly, our calendar will adapt to whatever the district calendar is. I know Mr. Layton talked earlier about looking about changing it. We recognize that currently your school district starts later and ends later than our schools traditionally do. We will adapt to whatever the school district calendar is. So if you're a resident of within the district and you have a student at Einstein and you also have a student at another school, they're not going to have wildly different schedules. It will be in sync.
Okay, and then lastly, one of the things I wanted to bring up is the creative piece that Dr. Shapiro and I came up with is this whole partnership academy. That's what I'm most excited about. And not only with this organization, but with every organization that we're entertaining. We have partnership academies that we're developing where we can really learn from each other. I mean, the last thing I'm going to tell you is that Einstein has everything solved 100%. That's just not true. Nor do we, nor does any school on the planet. So the fact is I think collectively we do, and I think collectively we can learn from each other. We have curriculum councils that each of us will have on there. My recommendation is that someone from this board sit on that board. I'd like you to weigh in on that, and if you don't want to, you don't have to. I'd like to recommend that someone sit on his board, if you will, and that is an entitlement. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, it is. It's in the petition.
So think about that, and in the future, we'd like to kind of appoint someone, and he can go through that process when the time's appropriate. Or we can have another community representative that can report back to this board. Obviously, keep in mind, they still would be under our jurisdiction and our indirect supervision. Okay, not direct supervision, but indirect, meaning that the curriculum council would talk, and we would have ongoing communication and conversation as it relates to Common Core. The principal of the school would interact with our principals and ensure that the process and the policies and the protocols and some of the concerns of the community are being adhered to. So there will be constant and ongoing communication. It isn't separate, out of sight, out of mind, forget about it, has nothing to do with us. So we're still going to set up a lot of different collaborative ideas, but please consider serving one of you on that board and then be a liaison back to this board.
And let me point out that the governance is community governance. There will be a board of overseers for this campus made up separate from a board representative from this board, 5 members. At least 2 parents, at least 2 community members, and that 5th spot could be either a parent at the school or a community member from the Acton or Agua Dulce community. So the governance will be local.
Okay, so any additional questions before I give the floor to Mr. Shapiro?
I just have a comment in reference to page 147 that refers to facilities in the petition. It discusses that Einstein will be looking for a site to lease and talks about if there's no suitable site currently exists in the attendance area, that they will search nearby neighboring communities, but that language is in.
Yeah, that's generic language that isn't appropriate because we've identified a site.
I think we need to just alter that paragraph.
Well, the MOU will spell that out. But
because the petition is the Agua Dulce Elementary School Partnership Academy,
Okay.
I think this language should reflect.
Yeah, we can
You can
change
strike it.
And here's why. I don't want a member of the community reading it
Right.
and going, well, wait a minute, I thought they were going to Agua Dulce School.
Yeah.
What is this thing about searching for, and where are we going to be, and when are we going to go, and how long is it going to take? I think we need to.
Yeah, as I said, that's
adjust
just not that standard
No, I
position
understand.
language that can be struck.
But because we have a campus identified, I don't want this to serve as a point of confusion
No problem, that should be fun.
in regard to.
And then, as you find other things, please email me. Email me specifically, and I'll be working directly with Dr. Shapiro. We'll be vetting this out. It will be before you as a vote on the next subsequent board, and then we will immediately pursue a very detailed MOU. You've already approved a template, so I don't need to do a lot of legal, but I do need to get some, making sure that I meet the needs of the community and the board and the parents and the teachers and everybody involved. So we need to do some work together. Any other questions from the board?
Anyone?
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
The RenArts K-12 charter school petition. Do we have a move?
So moved.
Second.
Got a second, okay. For the public's information, at the last board meeting, we received a petition in regard to RenArts. RenArts is a charter school that we are considering entering into a partnership with. It is completely separate from, it has nothing to do with the Einstein Academy. It is part of our larger strategy to grow the district, offer more educational opportunities and enhancements for our community, and is part of our broader effort to redesign our income structure. So, again, it has nothing to do with Einstein or Agua Dulce School. Is there any discussion, Doctor, or?
Yes, in your Friday letter, Janet Simons did give you a recommendation, and she went over this and ensure that, if you will look at your matrix, there's a RenArts matrix that we developed and approved. There were very few, if any, insufficiencies. There were a few as it relates to, let's say, for example, number of staff was unclear. But that's unclear because we don't know exactly what their ADA is going to be and what their enrollment is. So that's to be expected. As we talked about, there's a few outliers, but the other would be, expenditure assumptions, the school design plan. But again, we don't know what the facility is. We don't know yet. They're going to now look for a facility, and we don't know what the scope. And so a lot of these questions that you're seeing on that particular chart will be answered. We, honestly, 100% believe in this school. We've seen it. We've actually visited it. We've talked to these folks at length, and they are phenomenal. I think one of the greatest things that PK and I talked about today is the fact that we're very excited. Both of us are excited about the possibility that our kids are going to be able to benefit from their knowledge and their expertise and their resources. And we don't know what that looks like yet, but I'm telling you that between Mr. DeVoe and PK and myself, I believe in the very near future our kids will be able to benefit from their success. They've been very, very highly rated, and their kids have been very productive and successful. So I'm really looking forward to possibly working with PK if in fact you approve it, and moving forward again. We do have a draft MOU that she and I are working on, and again, it's as per the template and as per what you approved prior. If anything deviates from that, I'll let you know what that is. But I'm really looking forward to the partnership that we can potentially develop. And again, I think that's the unique part of what we're building in this district. Isn't charter schools that are out of sight, out of mind. These folks are going to be around, and we're going to be around them, and our kids are going to get the opportunity to enjoy their resources and expertise. And I don't know, again, I can't tell you what it's going to look like and how the particulars, but once we get these partnerships in place, I believe in their organization and ours that we can get creative and make that happen. So again, it's our recommendation that you approve that petition.
The question I have is, Janet is recommending approval of the academy subject to. And as I look through the matrix, there's several things in there that are points of law and ed code compliance. So when we approve tonight, if we approve tonight, how do we deal with the subject to portion of it? Because the vote is not a contingency vote.
No, it's not.
So how do we address the subject to?
the subject to would be addressed in the MOU. And any of those insufficiencies would then, like I kind of pointed out, a few of them, there's not very many, but there are a few, you're right. And that's I wanted to bring those to your attention. This is why we have the matrix, and this is exactly, it's a very rigorous document. And so as we look through this, it will be ongoing discussions, and it will be reflected, and there will be contingencies in the MOU.
The ultimate, as I understand the process, the ultimate approval is the approval of the MOU.
Yes.
So at this point, we're basically approving you to go forward and develop an MOU.
Yes. Well, you already have approved the template MOU.
I understand.
But yeah.
But I'm saying, the moment of truth is the MOU comes, we having, sort of gone through the screen of a charter that we want to do business with.
Yes.
Enters in the MOU process. It is at that moment where we vote to approve the MOU. So as I look at it, I have the same question, Mark. I saw just a couple very minor things, by the way. We'd have the chance to pick up those issues and then approve the MOU as something that has clearly identified and solved whatever remaining issues.
Now, again, maybe I didn't make this clear enough, but yes and no. The second piece would be, we already have a template MOU. What we had talked about is that I wouldn't bring it back for constant approval of the MOU back to you unless you guys want to see all the MOUs. And then secondly, what we're saying is we are going to address those in addition to in the template. There will be contingencies in the MOU that will say, you will address the insufficient items as per the matrix and as per the second piece to that. So it'll be the foundational piece of the MOU you've already approved, plus the insufficiencies. Now, if you would like me to bring it back for approval, I can do that.
I guess my only view is, and again, it's I don't want to say ironic, but I have absolute confidence in this particular. I'm very excited about this. I think it's a very neat school you run, and I'm confident it's going to be fine. So this is more procedural. Procedurally, I guess what I'm thinking is the gap could be that we approve it in this meeting and then something slips through, and I think that's and then we're in the big exposed because we approved something that didn't have some state
Ironclad way.
some ironclad of saying, yeah, we've solved whatever the gaps are. So okay, I'm fine with the idea of approving it contingent on these gaps being closed, if that is procedurally acceptable.
I don't have a problem approving it. As with you, I'm excited about the offering. My concern is not the school, but just with procedural integrity.
Yeah, right. How do we go back and
We've
check that
approved
box?
it, and then how does anyone know that that it's been done? I would hate 2 years from now to learn from the state that they didn't comply with independent study. And then we're like, well, why not? And then somebody will ultimately say, well, you approved it without that being done, and then we're like, and then we all look at you, and then this is what we need to avoid. So here's what I would ask for.
Okay.
Is that we, much like we do when we hire a teacher who's not fully credentialed, is that there's a review to make sure that the credential is received in a certain time period or the employment is lost, is under that same kind of a process, is to have language in the MOU that points out the areas that need to be fixed,
Okay.
and put a timeline on it.
Kind of like what we did before. If you'll remember the one timeline that we did with Einstein.
Right. Put a date on it. So when we approve the MOU,
Well, but he's saying, the problem with this is what you're saying is, he's saying that the way he's got set, the process set now is he wasn't planning to do anything.
I'm gonna give it to you, but there would be a summary document in the evaluation.
Because he's got this system set up where the template is what we're going to use.
Any,
But aren't the templates always going to be modified? Is that really
Well,
realistic?
it will, because every school, there's variables.
So you're
with
going to
every
have to
school.
bring these back for approval.
Okay.
and I don't
I
know.
mean, it could be a 5-minute deal. Here are the 3 places where it's different than the template.
Okay.
All I'm looking for is the page
Yeah,
Okay.
it says,
that discusses that in the MOU that they will adhere.
To identify the insufficiencies.
Right.
and that doesn't hold anybody up, does it? I mean, because
No,
you're
no,
gonna do the
I
MOU.
mean, it's just, it's another step in the process.
And a date.
Which, yeah, that's fine.
I don't even need to approve it again. It's just a matter of bringing it back
That's right.
and saying, here's the page that identifies
Okay.
these outstanding issues.
So the good news is you gave us some metrics. The bad news is the matrix tells us the things that now need to get clear.
Well, that's the whole point. We're
Right.
working out the details, and that's
And
what
that there's
I want to
simply
bring back.
a date
Absolutely.
on there
Okay,
that shows when it would be fixed.
okay.
When that date comes, it's a matter of coming back to us and saying, we've reached the doomsday date,
Remember,
and
this
all
is
the
kind of the
requirements have
first
been
one.
met, and we're done.
No, that's good. That works.
So that's good. Yeah,
Yeah,
that
so,
works. Okay. And if that doesn't work, then we can take it to another step.
It's just a mechanism where,
You bet.
please don't have me an 800-page.
See, that's what I'm trying to avoid. I
Because
don't
I'm
like
looking
getting
for
hammered
a
on those.
half a paragraph that talks about what the outstanding
Okay.
issues are.
Absolutely.
With the date.
I got
Okay,
it.
that's all we need to.
No problem.
Okay. With that, it's, again, I'm very enthused about their offering.
For those of you in the room that didn't have the chance to see the presentation last week, it was a really neat presentation, not last week, but last meeting. Exciting stuff you guys are doing. Looks like a lot of fun and a great environment for your students. Congratulations.
Any other comments by?
So before we vote, could somebody please summarize or clarifying exactly what we're voting yes to?
Well, you're voting yes to approval of the
To approve the
petition.
petition.
Subject to the MOU.
Subject to
The
No
template
contingency
MOU
language in the
plus,
petition, they're separate documents.
All we're doing is approving the petition. The MOU, will once the petition is approved, assuming we approve it, they will then start work in earnest
Yes.
on
negotiating the
completing the MOU.
Fine. Is the MOU coming back to us? Let me give you some conditions. If it exactly matches the template MOU we all approved, I don't care if it doesn't come back to us. I'm with you guys. If it deviates from the template MOU, does it or does it not come back to us for approval?
It should come back if it deviates.
If it deviates. However, he wants a summary document that outlines how we're addressing some of the insufficiencies.
The deviations.
Well, my opinion on it is this, that a template is a template. It's not the binding document. It's not, we're not doing our job if we just give carte blanche for the template to rule everything all the time. And I don't know if you were on the board, we had our first charter school, and there was a mistake. It said that the charter ruled, but really, that would have ruined us, because it isn't the charter that rules, it's the MOU, and we had to make that correction. It was a typographical error, but we can't just pre-approve stuff for them
I'm not
to fill in.
suggesting we should. I'm understanding the process.
I don't have-
And
And I'm agreeing with
this
Mark,
board
basically.
And Dr. Woodard are trying to streamline the process.
Are
What
we?
we had originally heard here tonight was, we all read very thoroughly the template MOU. And that's why I personally would be comfortable if something that exactly matches the template MOU doesn't need to get voted on. Because I already voted on the template. You're a little bit different place, but I don't think we have to hash that out now, because this one will not exactly match the template, which was my question, and therefore it will come to us. With
That's fine.
my summary telling us how to deviate. That's what I'm
Perfectly fine.
Okay.
Bring the MOU back to us for a vote.
I can do that too.
And just highlight the areas that we've already discussed in this meeting,
Okay.
okay? And let's get it done.
All right.
And I certainly don't want to be the group that holds up everything. Okay, we want to get it moving.
I want to maintain that reputation for friendliness.
I feel like a city trying to bring business into the community,
Right.
you know,
We're
no
Texas.
business
We're
tax.
I'm trying to take out the bureaucracy.
Welcome to Little Texas.
But, you know, Larry brings up some valid points, so.
You caught that.
All right.
We'll bring it back, but just highlight that point, and it will help streamline a vote, so we
Okay.
don't have to have discussion.
And sometimes we won't even have any highlights on future schools.
Maybe so, maybe so.
So moved.
The vote is contingent on bringing back an MOU with the highlights as
Well,
discussed. So, go ahead.
if possible, those are two separate documents.
I understand.
Do you require a contingent language? the MOU, they can't operate without an MOU.
It's just for the purpose of us approving it, that we will approve it. That's all. It's just for the record. It doesn't have to be contingent language.
Okay. As long, my concern is they need to file with CDS and get CDS codes and this and that or whatever. And it may take them till June to accommodate some of these things that we're
That's
wishing
fine.
them to do.
That's fine.
So I wouldn't want to put contingent language in the approval resolution solely because it would prohibit them from moving forward with the state.
That's fine.
That's
All I'm
fine.
saying is that the
Absolutely.
vote is taken with the understanding that the MOU will come back
Okay.
at some point
Okay.
for approval, that's all.
I can absolutely do that.
Okay, so that when people vote, they know to anticipate that it's coming back.
Yes,
Okay.
it will come back.
So to approve the petition, call the question?
Aye.
Congratulations to you
Congratulations.
and us.
Yeah.
12.0 Personnel Services, 12.1 approval of classified personnel. We have a 131403 custodian position. Do we have a move?
Yes.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Potentially.
This is a deficit model, because as we continue to get starved by the state and we draw down our funds, which we've done significantly this year, we have less funds to borrow from, which means we have to borrow more in terms of the trends, which ultimately drives our cost up. It's real simple mathematics, and we're going in the wrong direction as we continually do this. The good thing is, based on actions that we're taking tonight and moving towards a different fiscal structure, hopefully we're going to get out of that. But I wasn't going to let it go without commenting that if we don't move out of this process, it's going to continue to cost us more and more for these trends. And hopefully, the governor will hold true to his words under Prop 30 and stop withholding a portion, which is why this is in existence to
We
begin
have 1.3 billion in surplus that the state has.
And-
So you should be doing that.
It's all spent. Have I moved it in? Did I not move it in?
Yes, you have.
All right, any discussion?
And that.
Any other comments, discussion? Call the question?
Aye.
13.2 Williams Settlement Quarterly Report for the second quarter. Do we have a move?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion, Doctor?
No.
Comments by the board?
Now I got a question.
Yes.
What is it? I'm the new guy.
Okay, if you'll, I should have commented, I apologize. Basically, there's a Williams settlement which required that we have facilities and books and on and on. It's pretty large in terms of that. And this is a report that was required to file with the county that we haven't had any complaints against that Williams.
I remember now. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm good.
No reports, so it's a zero.
Okay. Call the question.
Aye.
Future agenda items. We have the traffic study at Meadowlark and High Desert. We're going to be adding
Yes.
the one item proposed by Larry regarding the school calendar. Anything else in regard to future agenda? Hearing nothing, we'll move to calendar. Any discussion regarding 15.0? Closed session. 16.A, employer-employee relations. The board did discuss the current and ongoing negotiations with AATA and both the school districts and AATA's offers. There's no action taken and nothing further to report out other than those investigations. Those deliberations are ongoing. In regard to pending legal matters, we did have a discussion. In regard to a personnel matter, no formal action was taken. It was just an update on an ongoing employee issue. 16.B2, public employee performance evaluation. The school board deliberated on the superintendent's annual performance evaluation on a closed session vote of 5-0. The board approved the employee evaluation of the superintendent, and we also approved a partial payout on his incentive salary. And again, that was approved on a 5-0 vote. .0 adjournment. Do we have a
So moved.
second?
Second.